My city, the city you see on your big screen, is the city I see on mine. But the city you see on your big screen isn't all there is to see of my city. This is Ibrahim Chavez, inspired by Angelino James Ellroy's LA Quartet, doing for the month of December my LA Quintet. And tonight on Watch This with RickRamos, we're going to wrap up our series on how viewers get their various tastes of the City of Angels through Hollywood, pornography, crime, scandal, and salacious storytelling from the streets. Tonight, if it bleeds, it leads. Tonight, we're prime time. Viewer discretion advised. Listener discretion advised. Quote, live, local, and late breaking. On the scene, tonight we talk TV news with Dan Gilroy's 2014 Nightcrawler.
By virtue of what cinema is, you have this, it's basically the capturing of life. You point a camera, you record sound, you record movement, you record emotion, and I mean, it's all there. The camera, from its inception, has been an incredibly powerful tool that has given us the opportunity to document life, to dramatize life, to find humor, to find sadness, to find the humanity in certain aspects of who we are. When I first saw Dan Gilroy's film in 2014, it was 2014, correct?
Yeah.
I saw it in a theater, and I was blown away by it. I was really taken aback because I figured I saw something that, even though TV news and the 24-hour news cycle had become such a powerful presence in our life, I kind of felt that what I was watching was becoming a more and more gratuitous and graphic business. And where some people, when they watch something like this and they say, well, that's exaggerated, that's overblown, that's a bit much, that's an exaggerated narrative in order to sell a dramatic story.
That's what news is. And news itself is an exaggerated narrative to sell a story.
But that's what news has become. If you look at the Walter Cronkite era, there's a good film that I think George Clooney directed back in the early 2000s. Goodbye, Good Night, or I can't remember what the name of the movie was.
Good Night and Good Luck. Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah, the Edward R. Murrow.
That was his line. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was a dramatization of that period of time where I think the news was a little bit more
fact. Yeah.
It was more fact based. I don't want to idealize the past because I don't look at the past like the good old days. I've never thought that. I don't think it now. I didn't think it then. But there was a sense of integrity that was driving.
It was more of a service. It wasn't like a for-profit entertainment-driven thing. It wasn't like cable 24-hour news.
Yeah, it wasn't about selling ad time. I hear these stories about how the nightly news was a big money loser because you weren't trying to sell ad time. You weren't trying to sell vehicles or alcohol or movies. You were just it was a fallow period. It was this period of the day where people were just finding out what was going on both in the world at large and their community. But with the advent of cable television and now streaming and YouTube and such, I think it's gotten to the point where the idea of if it bleeds, it leads has really taken on um, just a mantra of television news, the network news. This idea that you have to scare the shit out of an audience and pull them in, and you have to scare the shit out of a specific audience, suburban, middle to upper class white people who feel that they have moved themselves to a safer place where violence and criminality does not affect them. The news. I used to wake up every morning and watch the KTLA news with Steve Edwards and those two idiots, Jillian Barberie and Dorothy.
Jillian Barberie?
Yeah, Jillian Barberie and Dorothy, whatever her name was. And I used to watch that every morning, and it was kind of striking because you knew that it was becoming both gratuitous news, but also silly, and in some ways, I would say, degrading for all people involved. The shitty jokes, the stupid one-liners, just the lack of integrity.
The overall tenor.
Yeah. And when I saw Dan Gilroy's film, I saw what I felt was prescient, was a calling of things to come, especially in an era. I can't remember if it was already popular at that time or if it was just beginning to take hold, but Harvey Levin and TMZ. So that was a big factor of it. Although that's more like entertainment, but still, TMZ has its moments where they put on this false drama of, this is so horrible. We warn you. We ask that you take small children out of the room. That kind of shit. Where TV news plays on this idea that they actually care about people, when in fact all they're really doing is feeding into the paranoia, and they're doing so in such a way as to grip an audience and keep them coming back. One of my favorite parts of this movie is where Rene Russo, as the news director of the lowest rated TV news show in the Los Angeles area, is feeding lines to her newscasters. Play up the violence. Play up this. Play up that. Yeah, and these newscasters are effortlessly going into this idea of, this, like, what we are showing you. Please please don't let a baby be in that crib. Oh my God, we're so, there's so many things like that where I was really disgusted by this movie. I was really, in a great way, in a very great way.
LA.
It is.
It's LA.
Is. It's just, and LA leads the nation in what this becomes. So this becomes the standard for news in New York, Chicago, Phoenix, Seattle, because it's a matter of grabbing hold of an audience through fear, through this fear-mongering sense of, how safe am I inside my house? I don't think I've ever seen a film, even Network is quaint. Chayefsky and Sidney Lumet are quaint in comparison to this fucking movie. This movie is brutal, and it has an utter disgust with humanity, I think, because, I mean, it would be one thing for Dan Gilroy to say that this is the writer and director, Dan Gilroy, and his producing brother Tony, it would be one thing for them to say, well, the news is at fault. the news is the problem. But it really goes into the idea of the people. The people get what they deserve because the
It's the
people are
demand.
watching this.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a demand for this. There is a desire. Um, there is this need this to be transfixed by violent imagery and brutality. Um, we want to see suffering in this world. We want to see other people hurting, and we want to be able to pat ourselves on the back with this sense of that's horrible. This is the worst thing imaginable. I consider this an incredibly cynical movie. I look at it, but it's also very realistic. So the whole idea of a lot of times cynics are dismissed as people who don't have I guess who don't have faith in humanity and have a disgust for people as a whole. And I think that's a rather limited view. I think cynicism is more a matter of understanding the system for what it is and how it's manipulated and how those in power manipulate the information to keep the masses stupid. And you see it in this film in the news director played by Rene Russo, but the bottom feeder that is Lou Bloom, Jake Gyllenhaal's character. If you've never seen this film, I recommend you rent it on Prime. Don't go to Stars because this is a widescreen movie. This is a film shot in 2:39:1 aspect ratio, and they have it at 1:85 on the Stars app. So get it off of Amazon if you can. Get it off. See it in its full screen because it shows LA. It's beautifully shot, and it shows a wide image of the LA streets, LA skyline, LA neighborhoods. It's really well done in that respect. But it's an ugly LA, and it's led by this character, this manipulative, parasitic character that is. How did you read him? Because I don't know if he's a really intelligent guy or if he's just a sociopath.
Well, I mean, let's let's get to how we got here.
Please help me get to where we got here because I went very roundabout on this one.
Well, I mean, it's you talk about how prescient the movie is, but I also see when I see this film, I see this as just like the result of what came before. It's all this film does not come out of nowhere.
Oh no. This is a building
you know what I mean?
Of shit that is.
And I'm not
before,
saying you are saying that.
No, I know.
But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned Harvey Levin, and I'm like, when Harvey Levin is not just TMZ to me, Harvey Levin is the People's Court to me.
Oh wow, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Harvey Levin is like OJ era shit to me. This shit, this one version of a series about LA that we've done for this month has led us to this film. Obviously, there are many films that we could have done. There are films that we're going to do about LA, et cetera, et cetera. This was this particular fucking tasting, right?
Yeah.
I'm an Angelino. On my screen, I see Hollywood and I see crime. I see high-profile crime. I see celebrity death. I grew up with the Night Stalker composite sketch. I grew up with that. I grew up with Manson interviews in the 80s. I grew up with missing children. I grew up On the TV was gang violence, crack cocaine, Rodney King and the riots, OJ, the Bronco chase, the glove, overdoses on Sunset Boulevard, the North Hollywood shootout at the bank robbery, etc. On and on and on. So this is, to me, this film is also like childhood. In a weird, like, in a weird homespun LA kind of way. And it's not childhood like, oh, how horrific my childhood. No, because part of it is like, it's also part of entertainment. It's like when you think of, if you watched wrestling when you were a kid, and it's like, and trying to separate what's real from what isn't. And even what isn't real is informed by what is real. And what is real is informed by what isn't real. And there's a contract that you develop between the viewer and the performer. Just like with porn. Just like with, fill in the blank. I'm going 6 years old. I'm going back. I'm at the mortuary with my aunt. My mother's reading Star Magazine and true crime books. She's watching Geraldo. She's watching America's Most Wanted with John Walsh, and she's watching Trials on TV. Later on, where am I? I'm at the library going back. I'm going back through LA history. That means LA crime history. I'm going past Charles Manson back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, the Black Dahlia. Years later, I'm copy editing and writing literally on the downtown streets, sometimes at bus stops where we're going back and forth. Me and this my client, this guy, it was my LA theater beat, but this is his LA historian beat. So when I see this film and it's like how we got here, I ask, how can the trajectory of LA history not be personal to me and lead to this, because it's through the news, and I'll get into why. How can the scent of sex and death on the Santa Ana winds not stir something nostalgic and familiar and still relevant to me now? So the different from the cinema that was defining to me in my own history, different from that cinema Ibrahim episode, which was episode 430, that's Hollywood in the macro as an industry. Once you get Rick, downtown by way of Hollywood, literally and figuratively, and once I get downtown by way of fucking Metropolitan Transit Authority, it's geography is destiny, right? It's psychogeography is destiny. And when you get to the news, if you have, as you said, the world at large, that's national news and world news, that's Hollywood in the macro. Local news is Hollywood in the micro, because local news is that scent on the Santa Anas. If you're from LA, it's your childhood, it's traffic, it's the weather, it's time and place. In LA, it's Hollywood in the macro and the micro. LA, it's like you get to see a Hollywoodized version of Hollywood. So how did we get here? With Thom Andersen's Los Angeles Plays Itself, we talked about how Hollywood and the industry presents and represents Hollywood and LA the place. With Paul Schrader's Hardcore, we talked about how the LA porn industry, as the other Hollywood, draws out-of-towners to the city, as at the same time it exports its taste of the City of Angels outside. With James Ellroy's Feast of Death and Death Trip, we talked about a noirish LA of crime and scandal informed by LA crime writers. With Marco Ferreri last week, we talked Tales of Ordinary Madness. We discussed Bukowski's Down and Out, Drunk in LA, and how while it may not have been Hollywoodized because of its distance from the glitz and the glamour of LA, of Hollywood rather, it's also romanticized by and its proximity to Hollywood is played up because it's East Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
With Nightcrawler, all the avenues lead to local news, LA news, which often makes it out to other cities. And when you think about the news, The news is a combination of kind of all of the things that we talked about before. The news is Hollywood. It's the stars. It has its own stars. It's either about stars, and within your local news, you have these Pat Harveys, you have these fucking people that you recognize. It has its stars, it has its production, it has its entertainment, and its own myth making, which we saw in LA Place itself. It's also pornography, in that it's designed to stimulate, to titillate the viewer with heavily made up anchors, you know, the weather girl, right? The hot weather chicks. And that is an aspect of hardcore, which we touched on. It's crime, scandal, sex, violence, fear, death, and storytelling. That's James Ellroy. It's, you know, imagine the Black Dahlia. Imagine, you know, that running today. It's the dirty underbelly crawling into the light for us to see it. That's Bukowski. And in this film, it's really what Rene Russo described. She describes basically the news as, which is a screaming woman running down the street with her throat cut. So we've gotten to this place now where on one level, you can say social media is like, you're trying to figure out what's real and what isn't real, right?
Yeah.
And that's also what happens when people are here in LA, especially when they come from outside. They're like, well, because I mean, I live here, I was born here, I was raised here. I know what's real and what isn't real. But the fucked up thing is that some of the shit that isn't real is also real. On a larger scale, outside of LA, worldwide, we're on the level of like, well, with social media, it's like, well, you have an idea that the shit that people are posting is not really real, but is it kind of real? And then now with all the AI stuff, it's like, well, we're ready for fucking, like, shit's going to open up to the level of like, you don't know, we're not going to know what the fuck's real. Voice, visuals, people can create the news, you know? They can create car crashes. You can create your own car crashes at home. They have this thing, you see it on Instagram where they have, they'll give prompts to these AI generators, and they'll say, show me a Republican boy. And it's this, like, it'll generate a picture. Have you seen stuff like that? Where it'll generate a picture of some Midwestern looking kid, which means he's white. That's what I mean. He's wearing like a vest or something, and then he's holding like a little American flag or some bullshit, and it goes more Republican, and then they'll keep like more, and then finally he just looks like something out of like a progressive's fucking worst nightmare, like their worst. Like if a progressive were to go to like the lowest levels of hell, who they would find, to where Ronald Reagan would be like, whoa, like you're too fucking Republican. Donald Trump would fucking like gasp, you know?
Yeah.
Like how, like you're so far right that you've gone left like 9 times to come back, you know? Like, and it's that gradual like build up that we're talking about. All of these that we've touched on, that
all of these
somehow
what? All of these what?
For all of these forms of media. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's come for a minute.
Yeah, the payphone I'm on is there's a lot of hookers and a lot of traffic in the area. The cop just passed. Right. All of these forms of media that are filtered through film, and that's what we're talking about for all these films, for all of these movies. They all require drama. They all require, it's a wheel that has to continue to turn and churn out material. Whether you're talking about Ellroy's books, whether you're talking about Bukowski's books, whether you're talking about porn, whether you're talking about the news, whether you're talking about films in general, whether you're talking about a fucking video essay or someone lecturing about film itself, you have to have drama to continue your project, whatever that is. We need to do that too. Everyone has to when you talk to your friends, when you meet them after, if you meet your girlfriends for lunch once a week, well, what do you talk about? How amazing things were? Or do you talk about how, guess what? Remember Susie that I was telling you about from work? Guess what the fuck she did now? That fucking bitch. And then you go into the story. And then sometimes you embellish, you know what I mean? Like, even if it's based in a kernel of truth, but it's like, then you know what she fucking did? She had the fucking audacity she not only did she show up late, she came with a fucking coffee, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. But now what happens when it's oh God, oh please don't let there be a baby in that crib.
Yeah.
And it's build it, and you're watching this shit, and you're fucking like, what the fuck? But you're also laughing. There's an aspect to that takes me back to fucking being a teenager too, where you're so fucked up that you laugh at shit. The most horrible it is, not only to release anger, but or stress, but just because you're also fucking a teenager and you laugh.
I think there's a point where you also look at a situation, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're this fucking ridiculous. That I can't believe.
Of course.
Like I laugh. I have a very dark sense of humor, I guess, or I think
really?
I laugh. Yeah. I laugh at shit because I know it's fucked up. I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
I love the idea of somebody who is so fucking blatantly racist that they will say something that is, there's a moment in here where it's like, they killed 3 Mexicans. So what? There was like, and I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, so what? Who the fuck cares about 3 fucking Mexicans in a roach coach? Just, this is the world that we live in. And there's a part of me that enjoys the racism, the casual racism, the blatant racism, the misogyny, the homophobia, the fact that people can have these opinions and be so fucking blunt about it I've told you this story a number of times in our conversations I'm going to tell it now. I was working for a woman, and
I like the way you said that.
Yeah.
I like the toxic masculinity just oozing out of that like the bitterness of the fact that your boss was female. You were like, I was working for a woman,
a white woman at that, and
That's when I'm like, was she hot?
No, definitely.
We have to make it. We have to keep going further with it.
Well, it's just there are moments where you encounter such ridiculousness in regular life that you have to call your best friend and tell him about it. And when I heard this woman say, "We need to fix this chair for Dad," but she said, "We're going to have to African engineer it," and it just went past me. Like, I didn't realize what she had said. And then I started breaking it down. I was like, African engineering. Nigger rig. You wanted to say nigger rig, and you couldn't say it for whatever reason. And you somehow thought that by making it that makes it better or all right. And in my head, I'm laughing hysterically because I'm like, this bitch is so fucking ridiculous that she thinks that she's not the person that she is presenting to me. She doesn't believe that. Right. For you to go out of your way to rethink the wording, to change it.
Yeah, to make a euphemism.
Yeah.
to update it, you know?
But what does that say about me that I'm laughing hysterically and can't wait to tell my friends what this woman said? You
I mean, it
know,
makes you a human being.
I,
I mean,
maybe it does. I don't
that's
know.
what it is.
But this is what I'm talking about, where we're watching this and we're just, there are moments in this film where I'm laughing to myself, not because this is a funny movie. This is not a funny movie. This is not written
But it has
as
humor.
comedy.
It does have humor. I think it does have humor written into it.
I think it does.
I think there are.
Yeah, I think there are moments of dark humor where you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, this is the news industry, and this is what they push, and fuck that, we'll pixelate it." As if to say you don't know that this woman has just been shot in the head with a fucking
Well, that's what
shotgun, you know?
that's the pixelation is exactly what you just described with that woman's euphemism. The pixelation is like, well, it's like that thing where they say, well, tell me your blah blah without telling me your blah blah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's most of the breast, but not the nipple.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just this side of pornography. It's not quite filth. It's
yeah, it's like it's grinding without the penetration.
I remember Bill Hicks talking about the definition of pornography in the Supreme Court. It'd say anything that titillates without or is designed to turn you on without any artistic merit. And he says, well, you know, that sounds like every fucking commercial I've ever seen. You know, when I see that double mint twins, I'm not thinking about gum. I am thinking about chewing. And it's like this is dancing around the things that excite us. We like violence and we like sex, and somehow they feel that violent sex is an even more appealing and frightening aspect of our world. So it's like this is what they lean into. Part of me is disgusted by the news, but also there's a part of me that's disgusted by humanity, by a humanity that embraces this shit, that watches it and absorbs it and takes it in and says, give me more. I want more of this, you know? And we all do it. I don't know how many times, I don't know if you've ever done it, but how many times have you've been lying in bed, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you don't realize that you've been scanning through YouTube videos on your phone, finding more and more ridiculous shit.
Right. Or Instagram.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's also, it becomes a way of like, oh, I'm just relaxing right now. I don't want to think. I just want to fucking like consume garbage. I just want to watch people fight, or I just want to watch people steal, shoplift, or I just want to watch a cop kill someone, or I just want to know what's going on, so I want to watch more dead Palestinian kids. You know what I mean? Like, or I want to watch what Jim Jordan said today. Whatever.
Yeah.
And
I mean, part of the news cycle for the last 6 years has been, what the hell kind of idiocy is going to spew out of Donald Trump's mouth? I don't support this man. I don't like this man. But there is a part of me that says, please let this idiot keep talking on the microphone. And you know, there's a part of me that laughs my ass off. But then there's also a part of me that says, oh my God, there are people getting ready to reelect this man. You know, that's...
What do you mean reelect? He won.
He won.
He's still the president. The fuck are you talking about? Look, what is that George Carlin bit about how he wants to see the world destroyed?
Yeah, he's an entropy fan. He likes to see everything just destroying itself, you know. And you know, the closer it is, the better. If it's happening in Bangladesh, who the fuck cares about Bangladesh? But if it happens down the street, oh, god damn. let's get in the car and go down there and let's look at the fucking bodies. Let's go look at the bodies.
And yeah, and then and then take it to this. Let's record it.
Yeah.
And then sell it. One episode, I don't know how many months ago it was a while back. I talked about how sometimes at night I could hear. I think maybe even sometimes when we would record, I could hear they would do those street takeovers, and where they drive they do donuts in the street, and there's always people around there. I could hear the screeching of the tires, and that I was like, what the fuck? But that there's this deep, like, reptilian part of me. It's deep, but it's also close enough that I'm aware of it. That somehow wants the screeching to be louder, and I want to, like, feel it somehow more viscerally, and I want it to be faster and louder and more dangerous and more violent, and then I want the sirens to fucking come. I want, like, the cops to come and like try to shut it down, but I also want the people who are doing it to escape. I want them to escape from the cops, because I want them to foil the fucking corrupt LA cops. But I don't want it, like, I want it close, but I don't want it here. I don't want to see it. I don't want it to risk my life or any animals in the street or any blah blah. But I want it.
See, I don't want it near me, but I definitely want somebody to be doing a donut, bust an axle, a tire fly off into the crowd and kill about 5 or 7 people. That would be fun for me. That's because you're an idiot. People are fucked up. People are stupid. I think we really need to drain that swamp. That's the swamp that we need to drain. We need to get rid of the stupid people and rid ourselves of their genes, because we a lot of times I've seen those. I have been leaving a movie, walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and then seeing the street be taken over by guys doing donuts, and where everybody is moving closer and closer because they want to get a closer and better look.
Yeah.
I'm going further and further away so I can get into the fucking neighborhood, because I don't want that tire to hit me.
Right. So what happens when you get the premise of this film? It starts with, because everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. What is all of this? Nightcrawler.
40 minutes into this thing, what are we talking about?
I mean, but get with it. Yeah. Like, this has been how many years of this?
Basically, yeah.
You start off with a guy, LA. Thom Andersen did background when he looked at and those, if you are watch this with RickRamos fanatics the way we want you to be, then you already know, because you've already fucking listened to those episodes. But if you haven't, early in December we opened this series that we're doing with Thom Andersen's video essay, Los Angeles Plays Itself. And he looks at LA from all these different angles, cinematically, and the representations. And he kind of breaks down LA into LA as background, as character, and as subject. Now, if we look at character, we can do background last, I think. If we do and we're already talking about subject, actually, because we're talking about what it is that the news does and what purpose it kind of fulfills for us. If we look at, and we'll go back and forth, but if we look at character and how this person's character is a metaphor for the city's character, or for one aspect, or one version of the city's character. It starts off with a guy looking for a job. He'll do anything for a fucking job. He'll steal. He's always negotiating. He ends up realizing that he can be this stringer, this fucking Nightcrawler, this Ouija kind of guy that goes to crime scenes, records them. He can sell the footage to news outlets, and he can make money doing that. And it's his the film is his process. And we find a person in Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Lou Bloom, who is ambitious, predatory. He's cutthroat as fuck, exploitative, self-aggrandizing. He's ever changing, ever evolving, ever hustling. He's networking. That's LA's reputation right there. That's the reputation that people have, especially of the West Side of Hollywood itself. The one that's portrayed, and this is the thing too, is that like it's a rags to riches type of story. So you have a voyeuristic story, and we're watching a film about it, so we're voyeurs. But the thing is that one of the most dangerous aspects of this film is that built into the plot itself of the film is that he succeeds. And in our American kind of capitalist ethic, as we watch him like spew out this business jargon and this self fucking help jargon, we see that he's basically becoming more and more like self-actualized, in that he's pursuing his goals and he's achieving them. Now, he's doing it because he has no fucking moral compass. He's willing to do anything to get ahead. But he does fucking succeed ultimately. And the dangerous part about, not the film, I'm not saying the film is dangerous, but I think the dangerous part of like what the film reflects back on us is that the question that I think viewers should ask themselves is like, do you see this person at any point in this film? Is there some deep part of you, the way that there's a deep part of us wanting that fucking donut, wanting that car takeover? Is there a deep part of you that is rooting for this character? That you want this fucking character to succeed? As shocked and as fucked up as you are, is there that part of you? At what point are you so in the sway of the dream of success, of having it become what you want? And that's what happens when you hit those LA streets a lot of times. You know what I mean? Like, how far are you willing to go to get what you want, right? That's what we're sold.
Well, it's really interesting that the character is a complete, as written, the character is a complete and utter bastardization of the American ideal. Driven, focused, hardworking, self-reliant, willing to do the research, to do the legwork. It's a bootstrap story. On paper, this guy is who you want to be. Guy is the
Right.
guy that you want to root for, until you see those chinks in the armor, and then you start to. And I couldn't help but watch this and think about all of the great American entrepreneurs.
Industrialists. Yeah.
Yes, Gompers, Carnegie, Ford, all of these different people, Edison, all of these people who were heralded and have been mythologized and brought to this stature. Even though now with woke being what it is, a lot of that is being torn down. But this exalted kind of capitalist ideal of the drive to make something out of nothing, to have that dream, because what is he doing? He's building a company. He's building video. What's the company? Video news
Video
production.
production, VPN, video, which itself is interesting in the days of the internet,
Yeah,
VPN, but it's, yeah, video production news.
video production news, and he's faking it until he makes it. That's a term that people love to use.
Right.
Fake it till you make it. But it's like,
He's also on that grind set mindset. You know what I mean? He's in that hustle culture.
and that's what he does. And that's what he does. He's out there. But he's opportunistic to the point of being exploitative.
Of course.
And that,
And he's doing it already in a town, in a genre, in an industry that is built on exploitation. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, don't hate the player, hate the game type of bullshit, you know?
yeah, exactly. And that's like a mantra that
Which is a pimp shit. That's pimp shit. And
Yeah.
and it's all the same thing.
It absolutely is. I think what's fascinating about this movie is that it doesn't seem to pass judgment on him or the events of the story. It's just telling a fucking story. And it's an ugly, cynical story, but it's a very, I find it hard to believe that he would be able to get away with some of the stuff that he gets away with legally.
Because he didn't hire a lawyer. That's the part that I think was like,
Yeah.
that was the piece that we didn't see. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
in this voyeuristic film, where the negotiations are the most pornographic, and you never get to see the sex scenes.
Yeah.
That was another aspect, because I thought of that too, but I was like, oh, he gets away with it, and because he's another. I mean, he also reminded me of Harvey Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can look at all of these characters. It's like, well, anyone you can, whether you're looking at, you talk about these industrialists from 100+ years ago, or look at fucking like the tech motherfuckers, like from, you know, the last however many years, the last 40 years or 50 years, whatever it's been, you know, with the personal computer, Steve Jobs, all the way, Bill Gates, all the way through these Elon Musk and all that
Silicon
shit.
Valley guys, Elon Musk.
The Silicon Valley guys that are about that life of like, you know, we live to code and all this, like we're gonna be up all night doing this bullshit. But it's also Ayn Rand. It's also fucking like, it's all of it. It's such an American, told in LA, where it's like the first thing he does when he fucking starts to make money is he gets a fucking car.
Yeah, a red car that you can't
creep around.
No, you can't creep. You can't lay low on that. But this is the thing about that. You know, with you brought up Thom Andersen, and Thom Andersen has been a staple of these episodes that we've done this month. Thom Andersen describes L.A. as setting, as background, and as character. The L.A. of Nightcrawler is definitely subject, character. Yeah. Well, it's subject, but the L.A. of Nightcrawler is more character than in any other film that we have discussed. And it's a sleeping character. It's just there. It's allowing the things to happen. It's very weird because, you know, Bukowski's The Tales of Ordinary Madness. The film was very weak structurally and narratively directed. It was very weak. You could have set that in Philadelphia. You could have set that in Chicago. You could have set it in New York. L.A., and I think that was one of the problems that I had with the film and discussing it over this subject matter that we've been discussing, that we've dedicated this month to, is that the film didn't utilize L.A. in that manner. Ellroy's L.A. is a lot more powerful in its in the role that LA plays in drawing people in and creating this facade of luxury, of the beauty of the Hollywood system, the glamour, the glitz. Nightcrawler is probably the most LA of all of these films that we've discussed. In my opinion, I
It
would
is.
say that LA is more prominent in this film. It's both ugly. It lives in the ugliness of the lower class neighborhoods, the Third Street at Western, South Central, all the way up into the luxury of the Hollywood Hills, Brentwood, all of those areas where wealth is predominant, and the danger in that world. But LA is the sleeping giant in this film. Number one, it's at night. There's very few scenes in this film that are set in the daylight. I mean, I would say about 80 to 85% of this film is at night. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got some Venice Beach shots in the
Mm-hmm.
day. You've got a few other like it's just close-ups of the build, like shots of his building, shit like that. But it's mostly at night, and it's to 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 see also aspects of LA where it's like um at one point there's a shot on the 105
Yeah.
um and you see that Raytheon building on the side, and anytime anyone when if you drive to the LAX like from one particular side, like you'll see it like prominently, but it's just stuff that you don't really see, and then to see in the newsroom, to see this kind of like fake LA
Mm-hmm.
um,
On the
on this
wall.
large, yeah, on the wall, and to have him comment about how real it feels and how real it seems and how real it looks,
Mm-hmm.
and he seems like a child at Disneyland there, um, and this is for me, like I said, it's like all the avenues lead to this film, all the avenues that we've done for this month lead to this film because they all have something to do with the subject matter, the content, and the character, the background, the subject of LA. They all play into it, and it's a twisted version, like I said, where the guy gets the car, he gets the girl, he beats the competition, he beats the cops, he owns the company. You know, in the noir, a lot of times the partner gets killed, or in these cop movies or whatever, and it's like, well, he kills the fucking partner. And Rene Russo's character by the end, which is also so fucked up, is that she's, whether she is or not, she could be playing it, and that's the beauty of Rene Russo's performance too. Is like you never really know how far, like what, again, you don't know what's real and what isn't. But there was a moment, and it was like directed and shot and created to kind of play this. It was like this romance, but that's where I think I found it to be comedic because you see her getting more fucking into it, and like Leslie and I are watching it, and I'm like, "Yup, she's all fucking wet," you know, and we're just like, "Damn, like this is fucking crazy,"
Yeah.
because she's like, "You have it," and he's like, "Yeah," and they're talking about this violent fucking tape, this coverage that he got, and yeah, you could practically, the subtext is like, "Do you have it, baby?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you gonna give it to me?" "Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you." "Is it bad?" "Yeah, it's bad." "Is it fucking bloody?" "Yeah, it's bloody." "Is it juicy?" "Yeah, it's juicy." "Give it to me, baby. Give it to me, daddy," or whatever, right? And he's like, "Here, bitch," you know? take it. And that's basically what the relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also the relationship of we, the viewers, with all these industries out there. It's like, do you have it? Yeah, we have it. You gonna give it to me? Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. You gonna buy it? Yeah, give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Take it. Take it. Take it. That's what it is. I mean, like, our whole show is based on, like, they gave it to us but we didn't like it, or fucking, like, or we liked it.
Yeah.
How, you know what I mean? Like, what was it? Obviously, we go into, one would hope, more than that. But that's, at its most fucking reptilian, is like, that's what it is.
You know,
and the same thing with the people who are listening to us with
Yeah.
this. It's like, well, you have a new episode, Daddy? You know?
You know, I love when a film has the balls to go extreme and to not be afraid. Because this is not a commercial film. I think a lot of people would. I don't know how well this film did. I would imagine that this is the kind of film that would turn a lot of people off because they don't want to admit certain things about themselves. They don't want to admit how excited the violence gets them. They don't want to admit how much that they are a part of the problem that is this film. You never get a picture of the audience, but it's always underlying. You know it's there. You know that there are people watching it. Otherwise, there would be no point to any of this. And as I watched it, I was really overwhelmed by how just hopeless so much of it was. There's not a redeeming character in this entire movie. Nobody. There's nobody in here that's worth a fuck as a human being. I mean, they're all horrible people. Maybe the cops, but they're not fleshed out, so you don't really you see this
but
righteous.
You already know.
Yeah,
it's LA, so you already know that they're fucking, like, worse than fucking, like, Luke Bloom. You know?
Yeah.
Like, because it's and I mean, that's, at some point, someone right now in the audience is saying, like, come on, like, blah blah, come on, guys, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with most of what you're saying, but come on, guys, you know?
Yeah, they're good cops.
And, right.
And there are, but
the thing is that this episode is about Los Angeles, and so I'm here to tell you, there are not. They're all bad.
Yeah.
And so, the thing is, like, even there are perpetrators and there are victims, but the thing about this film is that, even because, okay, Rene Russo, at one point, he decides to ask her out on this awkward fucking, like, date. And so, in his version of Travis Bickle, he does.
I'm very glad that you brought that name up. I didn't want to. I didn't want to go back to Schrader, but I found it was kind of inevitable.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, this guy is both Travis Bickle and fucking and George C. Scott's dad character in Hardcore. He's that industrious business owner who, with the Protestant work ethic, but without the ethic, without the moral compass. But he's also fucking Travis Bickle, who, of course, becomes a hero through the news.
Good point.
He takes her. He doesn't take her to a porn theater, but he takes her to this restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and he ends up telling her that he wants a sexual relationship with her. And because everything is transactional, everything is this is also Trump world. It's like, well, isn't everyone trying to fuck each other over all the time? Come on, like, really? Everything is a negotiation because remember, in today's society, also, it's like, well, you're a business. You're not just a person. You're a fucking business. How productive are you?
Yeah.
What are you earning? What are you earning, and what are you producing for society that you can sell? Because if you're not, you're a fucking loser. Fuck you. You're just taking from someone else. I mean, that's the Ayn Rand fucking philosophy at its most basic. And right now, some fucking objectivist is going like, no, 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 wait, hold on. You're missing the fucking fuck you. This is what it is. This is my business right now. This is fucking Atlas Shrugged is like, no, either you're creating something and all the other people are looters. So in this transaction, Lou Bloom is telling the Nina character, Rene Russo's character, that he's basically telling her that he wants fucking like a sexual relationship with her, and she's like, no. And he's like, okay, check this out. I know that your 2-year contract is almost up, and you work for fucking like the shittiest fucking network in LA, and you do what he described as the vampire shift. And he's like, so you fucking need this. And so he waves it in her face, and he's like, look, like, basically, fuck me, or I'm not gonna fucking do this with you. I'm not gonna keep selling you these tapes. And later, because he keeps upping the ante, he gets the home invasion. He's like, I want $100,000 for this tape. She's like, no. He's like, I want 50. He keeps going down, but then he sells it to her eventually. Then he fucking gives her like this like lecture at the end where he's like, he wants introductions to all these like staff members and people on the production team. He wants to be introduced as the president of this company. He wants the fucking basically the watermark of his company on the footage. He wants a mention by the anchors, Rick, whatever that guy's name is, who is an actual anchor. Because he and Pat Harvey are the ones that are like actual news anchors. There might be some more. I think Rick Gonzalez might have come on. I think
Sharon Tate was on there too, so I can't remember.
And Pat Harvey has been around LA news for so fucking long. She used to be on Channel 9, KCAL 9, with a guy named Jerry Dunphy, who I might have mentioned before. He used to always say, from the desert to the sea to all of Southern California. And that's basically like, that's truly LA. Like, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of his thing. And he was kind of like a little local legend too. Well, he wants, going back to Lou Bloom, he wants introductions to all these people. And then he's like, then he throws in and like, I want you to do exactly what I tell you, not like what happened last time, you know?
Yeah.
And the whole point that I'm getting at is that you can say, well, clearly she's being victimized. But his kind of mentality, whenever his partner employee, who he exploits, who's the brown guy, whenever that guy has any kind of, he's like, well, you can always negotiate because everything's always a negotiation. And so basically it's like, well, if you agree to do something, you fucking agree to the terms. So that's what it is. You always have a choice. And I always have a choice based on your choice. So in that sense, it is that can do, like, everyone has their own power. But the thing is that he's exploiting the kind of muddy gray area is that, well, these people are being exploited. The Rene Russo's is the character's name Rick too? The
Rick.
partner.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that at some point, each of these people, they also cross all these lines themselves. they participate.
Actively.
And
They
because
actively
of
participate in this
they
world.
actively are they actively participate, and so now they themselves are no longer just, the clean victim, right?
Yeah.
Now they're also perpetrators, and they're now active participants in their own fucking like demise, or in their own undoing, or their own fall from grace, or however the fuck you want to describe it. He sets, and this one was one that we could see coming, but it was like, fuck, is like the beauty and the horror of it is watching him do it, is when he sets up that guy to get killed.
It's interesting because it's like, on paper, it's like this young guy that he has taken advantage of, this young homeless kid who he has put it out there. I need an assistant. I need somebody to do this. Being very vague about what the job is, knowing full well that he can't get anybody to do, paying him fucking slave wages and keeping him out all night doing this shit. When that guy actually gets his balls, first of all, the problem is he's not too bright. When you have somebody who's not too bright, they can't. This guy's playing fucking checkers and Bloom is playing chess. He's
right,
and he's a grandmaster
it's not,
too. He's an evil grandmaster.
It's also it's not only necessarily that he's not bright; it's that he's naive.
Yeah, he's naive. His back is against the wall, and he thinks that he's going to be able to demand this. So when he gets his balls and he says, "I want this. I want half." You could see it in Leo. You could see it in Bloom's eyes. Okay, now I got to get rid of him. How the fuck am I going to do that? And there's a part of you that doesn't think, well, that's out of step with what people are capable of, but not really. That's great businesses are built on the bones of people who were used. People who were manipulated, who trusted somebody. Didn't Tesla trust Edison at a certain point? I mean,
I don't know the details of their competition, but I know that basically, like, I mean, it's only people who know about Tesla. It's because it's this. I mean, it's either the fucking car, or it's because they know the popular version of it is that, well, this is this like genius who no one knows about, and versus Edison who fucking electrocuted an elephant,
and prove a point. Yeah, to prove a point, to manipulate a point.
Yeah,
but yeah,
to manipulate a point. And
look it up if you really want to know that. Do look it up. But this is what I'm talking about, where it's like it's like you have somebody who is sociopathic, who is bent on their own success, bent on, who is so completely focused on doing what they believe elevates them and puts them in a position. It's really scary because the Lou Bloom character is American capitalism. He is what we train ourselves to aspire to do what's necessary to be smart enough to plan ahead and anticipate what's going to come at you. When he is approached by
all of it.
Yeah. When he's approached by Bill Paxton's character, who is doing what he's doing and is expanding his business, he kills that guy. He fucking kills this guy. He goes, finds out where his truck is going to be, and fucking bleeds the brakes. And then sets himself up so that he can be there to shoot it. Because he wants him to know, I did this to you, motherfucker. This was me.
And he also wants to sell that guy's demise.
Yeah.
It's this ironic thing where it's like, well, see, and even Bill Paxton's character is like, here, I'm going to offer you to work for me now because you're the competition, so I want to absorb you. And then even the dynamic, there's a sexual element to the dynamic, which it's not literally, but when he tells him, like, for the offer I'm giving you, you should be sucking my dick. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, how fucking Harvey Weinstein is that? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
You know
and
what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think it was really interesting the contrast between the Bill Paxton character and the Lou Bloom, the Gyllenhaal. Um, Gyllenhaal would, as far as like an actor in
Yeah,
inhabiting this role, he got he dropped about 15, 20 pounds. But he's not a very heavy guy in the first place. I mean, he
he's
was
hungry.
riding. Yeah, he was hungry. He was riding his bike to the set. He was running to the set every day, 15 miles. He was eating very little bit, and he was trying to go for a, the look of a coyote. There's a few instances of coyotes in the film, and the original title was something like a coyote. You contrast that with Bill Paxton, who approached it as he's a successful guy. He's slovenly. He doesn't give a fuck about himself anymore. He's overweight, and he's just kind of unshaven and unkempt. This is kind of it's a comparison
It's a
contrast, but it's
metaphor.
also a metaphor for what the business
Yeah,
does. What,
yeah.
Bill Paxton is the success, the fat, slovenly. You could see him with a cigar. At one point, he's got a cup of coffee in his
Doesn't give a
head. You know,
fuck.
doesn't give a fuck. You know, he's expanding. He owns this shit. This is my fucking town, and I'm gonna shit on you every chance that I get. But Lou Bloom is skinny and wiry and hungry, and he's like a coyote. He's out there hunting all the time. He's aware of what's going on. And you know, there's a great deal of foreshadowing in this movie when he starts breaking in that scene that you were talking about with Lou Bloom and Nina, and he starts breaking down her situation. He told her he was going to do that earlier. But he was, remember when he was going into that discussion of, I was taking business classes, and
Yep.
you know, you write down your positives, you write down your negatives, you try to build your positives and strengthen them, and make your negatives work on your negatives. He told her exactly what he was going to do and how he was going to do it. But this is in a weird way, this is like a devil story, because this is what the devil does. The devil gives you what you want and what you're asking for without you really knowing what it is that you're asking for. We talked about that when we talked about Pacino and Walter Houston as the devil. The devil the devil never gets his just dues as being the negotiator that he is. Lou Bloom plays this game perfectly. He manipulates everybody, and that's why at the end, you know, spoiler alert that it is, he's on top. He has killed, he has manipulated, he has sexually harassed, and he has taken advantage of people through slave labor. Because at the end, he's not offering jobs, remember? He's
He's
hiring
offering
3
internships.
internships. Yeah. This is what they do. And he's going to get away with it. And I love the fact that there's no Hays Code, because the Hays Code would have said he would have had to suffer. He would have had to go to jail. He would have been put on trial and put in prison for his murder of both Bill Paxton character and Rick's character. And that doesn't happen. And it didn't
Nope.
happen to any of the great American industrialists. And the fact that it doesn't shy away from that, I think, is a powerful statement.
He goes into people's homes.
Yeah.
There's this crazy home invasion robbery. He goes in. He's filming the bodies. He gets the suspects. He gets them on tape.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the license plate. He withholds that.
Yeah.
He even waits to contact Renee Russo and the news agency before he gives them the tape to offer it to them. So what he does is he she says, well, why didn't you tell me earlier so we could have sent somebody over there? Because he got there before the cops. He says, I held onto it to increase your need and to secure my bargaining position. Yeah. He's all about the fucking bargaining position. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you also have to realize if he weren't as aggressive, they would be fucking him over.
That's a good point. That's
a reality.
That's a really good point. They would be fucking him over. They try to fuck him over in the beginning. They probably do. They get him for pennies. But
yeah,
this is
Peter Thiel, the guy he's one of the investors in Facebook and all this shit. One of the people who he says that what does he say? Now I'm gonna fuck it up, but I think he says democracy and something. Look it up. Now I'm gonna look it up, but it's something that are not compatible. Where it's like you're going, what the fuck? He has a book called shit. I'm super fucking up this, but it's 0 to 1. I think it's called no. His book is called 0 to 1, and the main thesis of the book is that we have this idea that capitalism means competition, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes everything great, is because, like, well, you're going to try to do your best, I'm going to try to do my best, and then we're going to each drive each other to do the best, and then now the people who are like buying our product will benefit from each of us innovating and creating and blah blah. But he's like, no, the idea is not for competition. It's the idea is to destroy it, to like get rid of your competition, so you have the complete like angle on the market. That's the point. To basically be like Microsoft. And that's what Lou Bloom, that's his shit. He fucks over everyone.
Yeah. He tampers with evidence. He fucks with crime scenes. He moves bodies. He moves, he understands he understands the power of the camera.
Yes.
There's that moment.
Oh, and Peter, real quick, sorry. Mm-hmm. Peter Thiel says that he believes that freedom and democracy are no longer compatible.
He might be correct.
So
I don't know. I mean,
I guess it depends on what angle you're coming from. His idea is like, if you're forced to choose between freedom and democracy, he's going to choose freedom. But that's also like a fucking talking point. This is also fed through media. So, but anyway, okay, the angles, literally.
The angles, framing, putting things together, moving the pictures closer to the bullet holes, and then being able to pan to see the family on the outside.
Dragging a body out.
Dragging a body, yeah. To get a better shot, to look for, to see where the arcs are, to see how the light hits something. There's something very cinematic and very, getting in as close as possible. And then, this guy has no integrity whatsoever. You're right. There is absolutely no moral compass. But when I watched TMZ, and I was hooked on TMZ for a while there. I was watching that shit like every day, and I would watch it, and it's really easy to get pulled into that. And you watch it, and you think, these people have no souls, none whatsoever.
I mean, yeah. Remember, and this is an indictment of me, I guess, whatever it is that you first recommended that I watch this movie because you said that there's on some level I'm like this guy.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not successful enough to be like that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
you have integrity, but there's a facet.
What it is that it's the voyeurism of it.
Yeah.
It's the the aspect of because you said you were addicted to TMZ, and I started.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I'm interested in like macabre things,
Yeah.
and so I'm interested in. And TMZ to me is like, okay, Michael Jackson died. Like,
TMZ's
um,
fluff. Yeah.
so no, but that's like I do like I did watch the Michael Jackson trial.
Hmm.
I did look at like pictures of dead naked Michael Jackson. It I've seen as many celebrity dead photos as I can find, because I'm interested in that, and I'll look at their autopsy reports and stuff like that. I'm interested in it. I'll look at lists of uh, professional wrestlers and porn stars to see how did most of them die, um, whether I like recognize the name or not. Every periodically I'm like, which celebrity died? Which celebrities died this year? Who who's most likely to die? Who's um, I'm a morbid kind of person when it comes to that, and so that's also like I think for me it's an aspect of being from the city. My favorite cemetery, which that says a lot because it's my favorite cemetery, is Hollywood Forever. Because I can like and okay, cool. Like Bugsy Siegel's over here, Rudolph Valentino's over there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I know.
Didi Ramon is over here. Douglas Fairbanks, like it's all of this shit, um, and it's from the top of the Hollywood sign, 6 feet deep. You know, that's what this shit is.
It speaks to you, and I think
It speaks to me.
and I'm fucking sitting here listening. I've seen this film twice. I saw it once in the theater, and I saw it once 2 nights ago. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I saw too many better films in 2014. I'm gonna have to go back and look at what was released that year because this is easily one of the best films of that year. And I really do love films that um, take a chance, are willing to be unlikable, and lean into the discomfort. This is a very uncomfortable film. This is a very hard film to watch in the sense that if you are self-aware at all, you know that you play a part in all of this bullshit. You have to
Yeah,
you
well, I
have
mean,
to admit it.
I just described mine. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because I do for whatever reason like I'm into that, and there's some asshole who's gonna be fucking taking those pictures because look, like it's like Pete Townsend said of the legends and the rock stars that died at the end of the '60s into the early '70s. He's like, they're maybe your fucking icons, and Pete Townsend is a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
let me get that in, if you don't already know that. Pete Townsend is an utter piece of fucking shit. Um, and envious too. But don't get me started because I'm more outraged by that than other shit, you know?
Yeah,
Anyway,
apparently.
but he's right. He says they're maybe your fucking icons, they're my fucking friends. So these dead people that I'm like looking at, these are actual, and this is now I'm gonna get on a fucking like so-called like high horse about my own like bullshit. Is that yeah? I mean it's the cliche like these are people's like they belong to somebody's family. There's
Yeah.
someone there's someone to someone else.
There's somebody who cares about these people.
Right, David Carradine like on that slab, as crazy and fucked up as he was, is like it's someone to someone, right? And
Yeah.
look, someone like a celebrity like an Anthony Bourdain, who had that ability for people to really feel somehow like connected to him or somehow like um, something to where it was like when he died, that was like, damn, like
Yeah.
shit. Who you could also say that on some level he was also to his own demons, but also to the industry itself, because like that schedule, that touring schedule, the show schedule, the production schedule, the documentary. There's a documentary on him that came out after we did the other 2 fucking episodes on him, but that talks about how. I mean, it even talks about how in one of his last episodes he fucking compromised like some integrity because he was too busy worrying about the shot. It would be interesting to get your take on that.
I have to watch it.
And we can exploit that to do you didn't watch it, I don't think. It came out after.
Maybe I haven't. I might have seen it since then, but I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
The Roadrunner. I think it's Roadrunner.
Yes, you did see it?
I think I have seen it. I have to watch it again, though.
Okay. Where they use fucking...
yeah.
They use AI for his fucking voice without, like, saying it's AI. Which they did that for... And I'm on a tangent now. But they did the same thing for an Andy Warhol documentary, but that makes sense because it's Andy Warhol, and I think Andy Warhol himself would have thought it was really cool for it to be a fake voice of himself to sell his documentary. Anyway, exploitation of exploitation with Anthony Bourdain. All that being said, I would still fucking look at dead pictures of Anthony Bourdain because I'm fucking fucked up. Because I'm just curious like that. But I know that when you do that, there is something that you're going beyond you shouldn't do that, I think. I think it's am I prying open a coffin to look at the corpse? No, but I'm fucking clicking on the computer to look at the corpse.
Yeah.
And these pictures are all leaked, unless they're like the ones of them in the casket, which I also look at.
I think there is, to a degree, you crossing a line, and it's robbing somebody of a certain dignity and death.
Yes.
But at the same time, when you choose to live your life in the public eye, regardless of right or wrong, these are the facts of you create a desire in the public,
and then your death is in the public eye.
Yeah. So it's wrong,
just as much as your life sometimes.
Absolutely. So yes, it is wrong, but it's a fact of life that it's a trade.
It's the Zapruder film.
Yeah.
Absolutely. people are they may be watching JFK's fucking debate against Nixon, where they say the televised version is the one that JFK won, and the radio one is the one that Nixon won, for all of those reasons that, obvious or not. Yeah, but it's a Zapruder film that we're fucking watching more than that fucking debate, right? We're watching him fucking get his head blown off. Back and to the left, right?
Yep.
That's what this shit is. All of this shit is it's all of that. And LA is more than Lou Bloom, but all of these industries that thrive in LA, and this is the end of one fucking series. In January, in the year to come, we're going to begin, and just by circumstance, by birth, by fucking whatever, we're doing more LA. By hook or by crook. And we're going to see other aspects, but at the same time, a lot of these themes that we talked about, we're going to see them re-emerging, because they don't even have to emerge. They're already out. They're like City Hall, like, as Ellroy said, like a big donkey dick pointed at the sky. LA has that aspect of exploitation, of whether it's fucking on Figueroa, whether it's in the valley shooting porn, whether it's on the lot on Paramount, whether it's at fucking Farmer John in Vernon where you're fucking working your ass off. It's whether you're at the post office on Alameda like Bukowski was, whether you're fucking whoring yourself out at events to sell your book, even though you're turning it into an amazing performance like James Ellroy. I mean, at some point, like, if we're all entrepreneurs, we're also, like, at that point, you become both the pimp and the whore. You know, this is also fucking Disneyland down the way in Anaheim, like in Orange County still.
Yeah.
We have to say that, but it's still what people think of when they say LA or California, whatever the fuck. That's another one that it's like, to pursue your fucking dream to that fucking level. That Disney fucking did what he did to create that world, to create that industry. And then since his death, like the company itself and the dominance and all of that.
You're either aware of it or you're oblivious, but we're certainly going to discuss it. That's what we do.
And we're going to watch it. We're going to fucking watch it. That's it's not called don't watch this. It's called fucking, like, peel back the fucking, open up that fucking body bag to what some of these things are.
See what it's about, dig underneath, find out that there's always more there. There's a lot of different layers.
And we're going to continue to do that, whether it's uncomfortable for us or for you or not, we're going to fucking do it. And so that's why we need you. We need your strength. We need your money. We need your contributions. We need to increase the need and solidify our bargaining power. Stephen Palmer, buymeacoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. Stephen Palmer, this one's for you. The end of the year, you get the last one. See who gets the first one. Buy a coffee, tell a friend, tune in, watch this. This is 2023. RIP.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again in 2024. Bye-bye.